So, with it being August 1st, which is apparently Spider-Man Day, yes, that's a thing apparently, I decided to celebrate that by having a hero-villain mashup with everyone's favorite wall crawler. And yeah, as you can see from the title, a hero-villain mashup between Spider-Man and Hawkmoth from Ladybug. Now, Hawkmoth is would be interesting, well, mostly because he's mystical. And Spider-Man has encountered his share of mystical foes, but he's never really fought, mysticism isn't really one of his major things. Although, yeah, when you look at the JMS run, they really went into the mysticism, but that's neither here nor there. Anywho's, Hawkmoth would be an interesting villain for Peter. I think, Hawkmoth would be this kind of, enemy in the shadows. Kind of like, he would be something akin to, like, someone like someone from the Magia, like Silvermane, or like Hammerhead, or someone of that degree, but with a mystic tone to him. And when you think about it, Hawkmoth kind of has a lot of the themes of a lot of his classic Spider-Man villains. Hawkmoth does have this kind of, very 60s Spider-Man villain to him. If anything, actually, now that I think about it, he's actually kind of like a mystical version of Mr. Negative. Well, I don't know if I go that far. I take back my comparison. But anyway, point being is that Spider-Man's never really taken on someone like Hawkmoth before. You see, Hawkmoth, we don't know the full extent of his other powers because we've never really seen him in a head-on fight. We don't know if he actually can fight. What we do know, however, is that this dude makes villains out of people who are bummed. And I can guarantee you, if he was in New York, oh, it would be a smorgasbord of horrible emotions. Because honestly, Hawkmoth would just akumatize everyone around Peter. Even Peter himself might be, susceptible to being, akumatized. Because, yeah, we all know the old Parker luck, and I'm scared to think of what an akumatized Peter Parker would look like. That's actually really terrifying. But anyway, Hawkmoth would definitely, even though it would be kind of difficult because, yeah, Spider-Man has nothing Hawkmoth wants. But I would imagine if they did cross paths, Hawkmoth would be like, okay, I really gotta get rid of this Spider-Man guy if I'm gonna, get on with my own plan. So I gotta think of a way to stop Spider-Man in his own... I gotta stop Spider-Man. Anyway, so that would be the thing, is that, Spider-Man has all of his supporting cast has their own problems and hurt feelings and anger, and like I said, if Hawkmoth was in New York, oh boy, could you imagine what he could do, to the likes of Mary Jane, or even Jameson, or Robbie Robinson, even Aunt May would be susceptible to being akumatized, and Peter doesn't really have the means to de-evilize people. He doesn't really have the means to de-evilize people. Could you imagine even what kind of strife Spider-Man would be put through if he had to fight someone like Mary Jane or Aunt May, or one of his other close friends he's fought his own friends before, but never on this regard where there'd be these superpowered villains where he would have to punch and knock them down, and they would be completely, dissociated from themselves, that he would have to do everything in his power to keep them from killing someone, himself included. And that's kind of the scary thing about Hawkmoth, is that he can literally there is no, like, oh, you've got to fight all the evil in you. No, it's just, you're evil. You're evil until you're de-evilized. That's what I find really interesting, would make such an interesting opponent for Spider-Man, is that Hawkmoth can just bring out all of your darkness and fuck any light you have in you. So Peter's literally going to have to, whoever gets evilized, he's going to have to beat them down until he can find a way to reverse this without a lucky charm. In that, he would have to go out and web-sling around looking for Hawkmoth. And even then, we don't know, Hawkmoth keeps himself well hidden. Although then again, they're not, to be fair, Ladybug and Cat Noir aren't purposely out looking for Hawkmoth, so I take that back. Anywho, the other thing is that, we don't know if Hawkmoth can actually fight, although I doubt he'd be actually able to take on Peter head-on. And here's the other thing. Not only would Hawkmoth be akumatizing, Pete's friends and family, possibly, but could you imagine what his akumatized villains would be like? Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that, Hawkmoth would be akumatizing all of Peter's rogues. Like, he would just be like, okay, Spider-Man, Spider-Man's a big opponent, I can't take him on head-on, but I know all of his villains live in New York, so I'll just throw out some Akumas out there, amp up their powers, and he can't stop them now. Go get them, boys! Yeah, could you imagine what Akumatized Spider-Man villains would look like? Yeah, terrifying. Like, could you even imagine what Venom or Doc Ock or Actually, Electro would probably look like a monster version of his ultimate form, of his, the version from him from the Ultimate Universe. That's actually, I take that back. I kind of imagine it. I can imagine that one, but could you imagine, like, what Ock and, Hobgoblin, Lizard, all of them would look like if Hawkmoth used his Akumas on them? Yeah, pretty fucking terrifying. So that would be the thing, is that, Peter would be running the gauntlet of all of his enemies, just wave after wave after wave of, these new these new, newly empowered villains empowered by dark magic. You'd have to call in some help from, like, Doctor Strange or someone else of that caliber to come help him, because, yeah, there's no way he's going to be able to take on these guys when they're empowered by all this dark magic. And Hawkmoth is really intelligent. He knows, he kind of knows, I think he'd figure out that he could wear out Spider-Man if he threw enough of these, a newly empowered villains, and possibly allies at him. He'd probably wear him down enough. So, yeah, Hawkmoth's a little out there for a Spider-Man villain, but when you really think about it, he could actually be a credible threat to Peter, just of having, he can be this master, this master puppeteer, or rather, master planner. You guys know what I mean. So there you go, guys. So you guys tell me in the comments below, what do you think it would be like if Hawkmoth was an enemy, was in Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery? How do you think that would go? How do you think that would play out? And yeah, what could you imagine? Who could you imagine getting akumatized by Hawkmoth, whether it be villain or or ally to Spider-Man? And what do you think they would look like? That's a better question. Just comment below, let me know. Once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'm out.